Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and today we have some breaking news and that Texas Senator and runner-up to the 2016 Republican presidential nomination, Ted Cruz, is now laying the groundwork for a 2028 presidential bid per Axios. So we go to Axios, you see here, Axios is a pretty reliable newsletter. I mean, it's not like NBC News or something. They're not really that biased. They just have like a lot of insider information. For example, like this one. So, I mean, if we start to just read the top of this article, you see here that he's trying to run as a traditional pro-interventionist Republican, and he is leaning into his feud with Tucker Carlson. If you didn't see, a while ago there was a interview from Carlson with Ted Cruz, and they really talked about the Middle East as an issue. So, I mean, as there's a rising age of much more populist Republicans in this party and in the conservative movement, like Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, like that, Ted Cruz, he's going to try and run as like a, traditional conservative, which is really interesting because back in 2012, he came into the Senate seat as a revolutionary Republican. He ran as a candidate of the Republican Tea Party movement, which ran a lot of very stark conservatives, and Ted Cruz really came out as a shocking winner in the primary. He was going up against very, very establishment Republican, at least back then, because now Ted Cruz is considered an establishment Republican. Lieutenant Governor of Texas, David Drewhurst, in the first poll back in the start of January 2011, Drewhurst was winning 23, and not a single candidate was able to crack 10, including Ted Cruz, who's only at 3. And then, because Texas does have runoffs in the first primary round, Drewhurst did not reach 50%, though he was 6 points off. Ted Cruz was 10 points behind, but in the runoff, Cruz beat him by 13 points, and Dewhurst actually lost votes from the lost like percentages from the first round, which is really interesting because now, back then, Ted Cruz, he became a senator, because before he had never held an elected office before, besides Solicitor General, but that is appointed. So, I mean, it's really interesting that Ted Cruz is now the establishment, when back in 2016 he was seen as honestly a populist back then, back in 2016 terms, before MAGA, before Donald Trump. So, that's why in the 2016 Republican primary, Ted Cruz, he did so good. He won 11 contests, but his so-called populism back then, when Republicans were introduced to Donald Trump, he had no match. And then, obviously, you had other candidates like Marco Rubio, who is now the Secretary of State under the Trump administration, and a very moderate John Kasich. So, it is interesting, but now, obviously, with this new whole Republican Party and Republican movement, Ted Cruz, he's going to do much, much worse. I just want to show you some stuff here. I mean, you look at betting. We'll go to polling market first. You see Ted Cruz, he's way at the bottom, not even getting past 1%. He's below irrelevant people that have no chance of running, like Ivanka Trump, Trump Jr., Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson. So, yeah, Ted Cruz, on polling market, he really has no chance. There's a better chance of aliens being discovered in 2025 than Ted Cruz winning the nomination in 2028. If you look at the other big betting market call sheet, it's really the same story. Ted Cruz, he's at 2%, but he's behind people like Josh Hawley, Brian Kemp, and once again, people like Trump Jr. So, obviously, Ted Cruz, if he does launch a bid, I mean, he might get a couple delegates, he might get like a couple percent, because remember, in the first contest back in 2016, Ted Cruz actually won in Iowa, but as voters in the primary were more introduced to Donald Trump, that's really what kind of crumbled the Cruz campaign, and I think it was Indiana that kind of sealed his fate. So, I just want to show you some polling right now. On average, nationwide, J.D. Vance, he is sitting at over 40%, 44.7, of commanding lead against all other candidates, but obviously as more candidates announce and other candidates endorse other possible candidates, say they aren't gonna run, you're gonna have things signing up, and you see here that people like Vance, Trump Jr., DeSantis, Rubio, Kennedy, Christie, and Haley are in the top 7, but you see here that Cruz is only at 2.9, so yeah, it doesn't look like a very good possibility right now for Ted Cruz to be able to do an electoral comeback, because honestly, he's really hated right now by Donald Trump sometimes. Well, not that much, but sometimes, yes, and a lot of people that are much more staunch populist conservatives, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, because he's one of those very, very pro-Israel Republicans, takes a lot of AIPAC money, and honestly, Republicans aren't going to nominate anybody that is less populist than J.D. Vance. Because J.D. Vance, first of all, he's the successor, basically already coronated successor of Donald Trump. So, I mean, nobody's going back from Donald Trump, right, in the Republican movement. So they're going to have to nominate a more populist candidate. It could be somebody who's already holding political office, like, who is it, Josh Hawley, or it could be like a political newcomer who's very aligned with Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy, Robert Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, or it could be somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, we're definitely going to have to see, but people like Ted Cruz, they were favorites in 2016, and they will have no chance in 2028. So, yeah, it is interesting because we didn't have a candidate announce their bid in 2016 until 2015 in the Republican side. So, I mean, we would probably have to wait until at least 2027 to have any candidate announced. But in 2020, by this time, you did have a couple Democrats announced, which is interesting. So maybe we'll see Cruz announced in the upcoming months, which would be interesting if he really wanted to earlier clear the field. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting primary on both sides in 2028, so to say the least. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.